Hello and thanks for joining me. I'm Sophie from Sophie's Flower Company. Today I'm going to show you how to do an autumnal wreath. To start with, we have got a frame here. You'll see the frame is a copper base. It's a heart shape, and these are available from florists, so you can probably get them online as well, I would imagine Amazon. This is reel wire. What I've done with the reel wire is I've attached it to the frame and then I've bound on some sphagnum moss. Now you can also use straw for this as well. So I've got some moss here. I've pre-done this. I'm just going to demonstrate this a little bit here. So my wire is attached and I'm going to scrunch this, pull it apart and scrunch it back together, pull it apart, scrunch it back together. The reason that we do that is it creates more volume with the moss and therefore it's easier to put wires through later on. So placing that over the top, I'm going to very firmly take the reel wire around the frame, moving it along an inch at a time. The moss that I've got here is sphagnum moss, sustainably sourced. So you'll see that the moss is dry. The reason that I've left it dry is because it's so messy and it's so dirty when it's wet and it makes your hands really cold. So now we've got to the top. I'm going to take it around once more. I'm going to start adding some foliage. So I've got a bit of pistache, a bit of skimmia and a bit of eucalyptus, 3 different varieties. You don't have to use 3 different varieties. I just like to have a little bit of interest. And I'm going to lay this across the centre here. And I'm going to take my reel wire across the stems, securing the stems onto the base. And then I'm going to do that again. I'm doing it really nice and firm. So with my next bunch, I'm going to cover over the mechanics. I'll show you here. I'm going to cover over the mechanics there by bringing this round here. And this is going to go round and round and round. Okay, so placing that a little bit further down, taking my reel wire further down to cover up those old mechanics. I'm going to take it around a few more times. Each little bunch I'm doing, I'm spreading them out so that the foliage is covering the moss. It's not too much of a problem if you can still see your moss, because moss is pretty at the end of the day. Make a few more bunches. So this little bunch, and then here's a skimmia. I'll show you again. So I'm covering up these mechanics, laying that down there, taking my reel wire a little bit further round. And covering over the stems there. And then I'm going to do all of that all the way round. Great, now we're approaching the bottom of the wreath. I'm going to take this final one, I'm going to try and pop it in the centre there to cover up the point. So here goes. So it does get a little bit fiddly the closer you get to the bottom. Right then, just to finish it off, leave that nice. I'm going to take this round the back and tuck it through, almost stitching like you'd finish off a stitch, through a couple of times. Don't worry too much about this base at the moment because we'll deal with that shortly. Right, now we're going to add some of the embellishments, the interesting bits. Move this out of the way. We've got some pine cones, we've got some rose hips, hydrangea and some everlasting flowers. So it's going to be a real organic kind of feel to it. It's not really going to have any particular pattern. I'm just going to work with what I think works and pop bits in here and there. I've also got some seed heads and some pheasant feathers here. Everything here is dried or fresh that can be dried. So the rose hips will dry, the hydrangeas dried, these seed pods will dry, pine cones already dried. And I'm going to use my thin wires. So what I'm going to do is make a hairpin like this, take it round 3 times, and then this wire I am going to push through so it comes out the back here, wiggle it into place and tuck it back in on itself. Okay, we'll do a few of those. Would be really fiddly to begin with, but after a while you'll soon get the hang of it. Now I'm going to add some rose hips. These are really sharp. I've literally picked these out of the hedgerow today, so just be so careful because they come quite keen and you do know about it. So some of these I'm going to bunch together, some I'm just going to put in as single hips. You could also add some berries in, you could add some hops. Haw-berries work really well. Hops are brilliant because they also dry. So I'm just going to keep adding all my little bits in here. Them through. I think the beauty of autumn is all the different textures. So the shininess of those berries with the fluffiness of the skimmier. I'm going to wire these in individually. Everlasting flowers are so delicate. The centres are like velvet. The good thing is about using loads of wire in this, although it is tedious and it can be a little bit tricky to get the hang of, you can manipulate the bits where you want them to be. Choose that one. This one with the stem on. So these bits came from a local grower, British grower called Caroline at Weissel Flower Farm. Okay. Add a little bit of hydrangea now. I'm going to snip the back of the hydrangea. This is already nearly dried, this one. It's not quite there, but it's on its way. To wire these in. Wiring from the back again, covering over our mechanics. Now that we've added all of our dried flowers and foliage, you can see it's really filled out. So now I'm going to add a nice ribbon and we'll about be there. So I think that's a lovely one. So these ribbons are hand-dyed silk ribbons from our lovely lady Viv at Little Acorn Silks. I'm just going to find the back of the wreath here, and I'm going to thread the ribbon through the back of the wire. And now we can hang it on our door. there you have our autumnal natural heart wreath.